You know Dracula. You know Nosferatu. But do you know the Dhampir? Forget the wooden stake in the holy water. Forget the garlic hanging on the door. The legend, whispered in dark taverns and forgotten Balkan villages, says that the only creature truly capable of extinguishing a pure-blood vampire, a Strigoi, a Vrykolakas, is not an ordinary human, but its own son. This is the most ironic and destructive secret in European folklore. It is the ritual that curses the blood in the womb, the oath under the moon that deforms the flesh and spirit for the singular darkest purpose: the hunt. And this ritual is not about the sacrifice of a victim, but the sacrifice of a child born on the edge of a genetic precipice. This secret is the Dhampir, the creature that inherits the strength of darkness, but carries a soul condemned to the light. Its very existence is a flaw in immortality, a price the oldest vampire must, inevitably, pay for his hematodipsia. The folklore is clear and brutal. In some cultures, this child is born only from a non-canonical union, a transgression that wounds the very pact of immortality. Blood promises, blood collects, but if the legend is right, and the Dhampir is the only true hunter, what ancient oath bound the vampire's own progeny to be its executioner? And what is this lunar symbol, mentioned in medieval bestiaries, that marks the Dhampir from birth and will only be explained later? That is what we are about to uncover. To understand the Dhampir, one must first comprehend the enemy for which it was designed by fate. Technical vampirology does not speak of a single vampire, but of distinct lineages and clans, each with its own specific curse and vulnerabilities. In Transylvania and the Carpathians, the Strigoi dominated, a lineage of resurrected undead, often associated with sorcerers or improper burial, and feared for their ability to shapeshift into animals. Further south, in Greek Thessaly and parts of Macedonia, we find the Vrykolakas, a more ghostly figure associated with excommunication. But the oldest lineage, the one the Dhampir is particularly antagonistic toward, is the Nosferatu, the primitive undead, cited since the earliest accounts and recognized by a more physical, less magical curse. It is from this unholy union, this transgression of natural and supernatural law, that the Dhampir, literally milk drinker, or born from a vampire in Albanian and Serbo-Croatian, emerges. They are proof that even the immortality of Nosferatism has a biological and spiritual cost. The moon calls, the flesh answers. The study of apotropaics and defenses against these creatures is a field unto itself. Folklore is replete with taboos that act as barriers: the lunar cycle for the metamorphosis of the Strigoi, the use of silver against more physical forms of the curse, and of course salt and verbena to neutralize the venom. But here lies the first great paradox of the Dhampir and our open loop too. This hunter, born of the curse, is the only one who isn't affected by many of these taboos. The legend suggests that a lunar stigma, a birthmark, appears at birth to indicate their origin. For perceived authority, we turn to sources like De Masticatione Mortuorum by Ranulf Higden, 14th century, which, although focused on the chewing undead, establishes a canonical precedent for the biological anomaly of beings born of an already deceased or cursed entity. Higden does not cite the term Dhampir directly, but discusses the concept of children of the midnight. The most cohesive primary source for the Dhampir lies in the oral chronicles of Serbia, Kosovo, and Albania, where they were called vampirdzija and frequently employed as official vampire exterminators by the community, charging a high price for the service. What specific taboo, shared with his vampire father, is the only one that still affects him? And what does this tell us about the true nature of the curse? The answer lies in the fauna of forbidden transgression that led to his birth. The Dhampir lineage is, by definition, a transgression. The legend is explicit. For a Nosferatu or a Strigoi to father a child. And most legends suggest only the male vampire has this ability through rituals of blood consecration torquoit. With a human victim, he needed to break the main rule of his own state. He cannot be entirely dead. The Dhampir is the evidence that, in the vastness of vampirology, there are entities that are not the decaying undead, but rather something closer to the semi-living, trapped between states. The birth of the Dhampir requires an act of inverted, liturgical hematophagy, where the vampire, instead of draining, infuses a controlled portion of his cursed blood, his stigma, into the womb. This blood is the catalyst. Blood promises, blood collects. The child, the Dhampir, is thus born with divided blood. It inherits the strength and longevity of the vampire father, but retains the soul and the ability to walk in the sun of the human mother. It is a biological aberration, immune to the lupine metamorphosis of the more bestial Strigoi, but sharing the father's aversion to certain pure substances. Its senses are sharpened to the extreme, the hearing of a bat, the scent of a wolf. It is the perfect hunter, gifted with all the weapons needed for the war against the night, except a normal life. This is the price, the consequence. It is condemned to hunt its own blood. This internal conflict is symbolized by the Owi, totemic object, carried by the ancient Dhampir hunting clans, the forged iron ring, which many Vampirzija wore. It was not a silver ring, it was of pure iron, forged under the blood moon. Open Loop 3 is established here. Why was iron, a common metal, the essential totemic object for the Dhampir? And how does it connect to the taboo the Dhampir alone shares with the pure vampire? The answer to this anomaly lies in the very function of the ring, which was not for attack or defense. This blood heritage manifests in the Dhampir's body in visible and destructive ways, generating consequences that make them both the saviors and the most feared among humans. The Dhampir's life is the eternal duality of blood. The effects of this hereditary curse are evident. They have a solar hypersensitivity, not fatal like that of the pure vampire, but painful enough to lead them to prefer nocturnal hunting. Their healing is almost instantaneous, a gift inherited from immortality. Their strength and speed surpass those of 3 men, and they are immune to most human diseases. But they bear the cost, a subtle thirst, an attraction to blood that is controllable, but always present. It is not the destructive thirst of the father, but a constant reminder of their origin. This cleavage between human and monster is what makes them tolerated by the villages, but never accepted. It is the destiny of living in exile, being the human shield against the darkness that spawned them. The moon calls, the flesh answers. Now, let's look at the partial payoff of our loops. In what Block 1? We questioned the lunar symbol and Untold that marked the Dhampir. This is where the Albanian folklore called Lunar Stigma, comes in. Dhampirs do not have the vampire's pallor, but rather healthy, tanned skin. However, most legends speak of a small birthmark or sign on the left side of the chest or on the face that resembles a half moon. It is an omen, an alert to the community, and a magnet for the vampires themselves, who see in this mark proof of their blood's betrayal. And what about Loop 2 and the taboo that affected them? Although silver, verbena, and most apotropaics do not harm them, there is one substance the Dhampir and the Nosferatu share an aversion to: pure running water. Yes, running water, like a river or stream. Folklore is emphatic. The classic vampire cannot cross running water without immense difficulty or even being destroyed, and the Dhampir shares this aversion or limitation to a lesser degree. This reveals something fundamental. The Dhampir inherited an elemental, not magical, fear. Running water represents life, continuous movement, and purity that both the undead and the half-dead reject or fear. But the reason for the iron, the totemic ring, and the final answer about the oath that created them can only be revealed by understanding the Wana legacy of the lineage and the Fua truth about the blood. We reach the synthesis. The Dhampir is not just a hunter. He is the biological vengeance of blood. The lineage and legacy persist in Balkan culture because the need for a specialized hunter is timeless. They represent the only force that, according to legend, can penetrate the havens of the Nosferatu and survive. To close, open loop 3. On the forged iron ring and the running water taboo, the ring was not a weapon, but a counter ritual instrument. Iron in Slavic mythology is a metal that has the power to trap or anchor spirits and curses. The vampir Zija used the iron ring forged under the blood moon to perform a final rite in the running water, to purify the body of the slain vampire before it could rise again. The iron anchored the cursed spirit, and the running water washed away the stigma of the vampiric blood. The ring was the last resort to ensure that the promised blood was collected. The only thing that binds the Dhampir to the father is not a magical weakness, but an elemental resistance, proving that the blood curse is, in its essence, a flaw in nature, and not just in the spirit. And what does all this tell us about the central dramatic question we promised to answer? What ancient oath bound the vampire's own progeny to be its executioner? It was not an oath of blood, but an oath of life. The Dhampir does not have the complete gene of immortality. His life is finite, though long. This mortality is what connects him to the divine purpose of restoring balance. Nature, in allowing the birth, ensured that the vampire's power would not be transferred to a new lineage, but would be used to destroy the original source. It is life rebelling against non-life. The Dhampir is the price of transgression. Blood promises, blood collects. This duality of blood is masterfully captured in modern literature. The writer Anne Rice, master of the Gothic, in her works on immortality, reminds us that the blood is always a price. It is the currency of exchange, the cost of existence. And the master of horror, Stephen King, who frequently deals with the consequences of hereditary evil and fate, echoes the sentiment. Some things do not die. Vampiric evil persists, but the Dhampir, the weapon born of darkness itself, is the only guarantee that the hunt will never end. But if the war against evil never ends, what is the next threat the Dhampir must face? The Dhampir's legacy is not just about killing vampires. It is about the persistence of the legend and constant vigilance. They live on the fringes, eternal sentinels of a world that fears them as much as it depends on them. Their heritage, their blood secret, continues to be one of the richest and most authentic mythological chronicles of Europe. But if the Nosferatu are nearly extinct and the Strigoi are a localized threat, what new lineage of half-blood might be uniting in secret clans in the shadows of modern cities, using the Dhampir's knowledge for purposes of power and not hunting? This is the residual question that haunts us. If you are in Eastern Europe and the signs of the Dhampir clan have appeared where you live. If you have seen the lunar symbol or heard stories about the forged iron ring, comment the omen or object you witnessed below. Share this hunting script with those who need to know the truth about the condemned heritage. Subscribe to the Ark of Mysteries channel to unravel the next secret.